including her. The newborn was given to adoption, and the 5 kids moved in with her aunt and uncle. There they suffered because they suffered physical and verbal abuse. But that didn't stop Grace. Grace did not allow that to define her. She dreamed of an education which was a key to get out of poverty and her situation. She completed a bachelor's degree in the Philippines. They came here, got married, had children, and completed a PhD in mythical studies with emphasis in depth psychology. Tonight, as I was telling you, weren't here, but it is my honor to tell you that she will talk about the power of words. She insists that we will learn that by slightly shifting and selecting words, we can change and impact our lives and the lives of others. And why not start the year 2018 with those inspirational words? Please welcome Advanced Competent Silver Communicator, Dr. Grace Hogstad.
Thank you, Lydia. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was in God, and the Word was God. That's from the book of John. Word, when uttered, is God, meaning it has intrinsic power. They have intrinsic power in themselves. In the book of Genesis, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And thereafter, the whole of creation was made. In Egyptian mythology, they have a god called Ha, H-U, meaning the power of the spoken, the creative power of the spoken word. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, an honored guest. Tonight I'll be talking about the power of words and how choosing the right words, using the right word can make a difference in our life. Since I'll be talking about myths, I want to define and discuss the nature of myth, and then I'll tell a story about the myth of Inanna, just briefly, a section where she has powerfully used and effectively used words. And I'll pretty much be telling stories also. I'll be talking about takeaway lessons for us that we can use to improve our life, using words, the power of words to improve our life in 2018. I will be using some personal experiences to illustrate my points. So, what is a myth? Myth is story. Myths are sacred stories of a culture. Some people probably want to distance themselves from myth by saying, myths are other people's religion, not mine. But in religious studies, scholars look at literatures of all religious traditions as mythologies. Myths are powerful regardless of whether they are historical or not. So what makes a story a myth? It's a story. There's so many stories. What makes it a myth? We know, of course, from high school Greek mythology that myth is a story about gods. So now the next question would be, what is a god? Mythologist Joseph Campbell says that a god is a representation of the power in our own bodies and nature. Hence we have the god of the sea and the goddess of love and beauty. What I learned from studying these myths is there are truths in each of them if we look at them as a metaphor, read as poem and not as history. Myths are metaphors of the potentiality, of the spiritual potential of us as a human being. So I want to be able to talk a little bit about a brief section on a sample of a myth, and then we'll talk about what's the meaning of that. I mean, so God created everything in 6 days, and what does it mean? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to us? So I want to talk about the myth of Inanna, because she really uses the powers of word effectively. This myth is 4,000 years old, and this myth, the restoration of this myth, was a labor of love for 100 years, from the first time that the archaeological dig was made in what is now Iraq, up to the time that this book came to be published, Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, 1983. That's about 100 years of labor of love by archaeologists and cuneiform scholars. Some of them even die and new ones, new ones take over the job. But Inanna takes a heroine journey to the god of wisdom, her grandfather Inki. She wants to go there before she marries and before she rules her people as queen, because she wants to get wisdom from her grandfather Inki. And so when she got to Inki's place, she was treated well by Inki and offered beer to drink. So they were drinking beer and more beer. And soon Inki was inebriated, and when he was beginning to get tipsy, he started giving away the holy me. Let me tell you about me. The translators and authors did not translate the word me to English because there is no English word equivalent of it. It means skills, attributes, knowledge, and wisdom, all of those that are needed for a civilization, needed to start a civilization. So Inki raises his hand and says, "To my daughter Inanna I give godship and high priesthood." And Inanna answers, "I take them." And every time Inki says, "To my daughter I give this," Inanna says, "I take them." And on until 80 holy me's have been given. And the holy me, and Inanna always, her act of verbally accepting it and as a declaration, also at the same time installs the power into her, right away putting the power to work in her. She already becomes that high priest and goddess, and whatever else those other 80 that may apply to her. And so when it was done, when all 80 gifts are given to her, she stands in front of her father. I don't know what condition he was in by then already. But he says, she enumerates all 80 of them. So it's the speaking of the word. She said, I take them. So then it initiates the power into her. But now she says, my Father has given me the me. He gave me high priesthood. He gave me godship. He gave me noble enduring crown. He gave me throne of kingship. He gave me noble scepter. She gave me the staff. So on and on, we cannot read all 80 of them. And what happened is her enumerating those things. So she stands in front of them. My Father gave me this, 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 this. And the process is a lot like what we would do now, a contract. The word was their contract. My Father passed the power to me. My grandfather, my Father has given me this, this, and that. So it's, words are so important. And even though we might say, yeah, that's then, but I still say that use of words, the use of the power of words is still very important. So when Inanna was done reciting all those things, she loads the Holy Me. Now the Holy Me, of course, are real power and attributes that she already took on. However, they also have symbols, probably clay images, So she had those 80 symbols loaded into her boat, and off she goes home. Meanwhile, Inky wakes up and says, what happened to godship? What happened to this? And his servants would say, the king has given them to his daughter. And so he sends his monsters and servants go to fetch it over and over, 6 times in fact. They go and they return. Because by now, Inanna, with all her newfound power, was able to defend herself and her gifts ably, with only one help, and that is her trusted friend, Ninshubur. So when she was approaching home, of course she traveled the river Euphrates, and when she was already approaching home or to her temple, she left the river Euphrates already, so they needed water to carry the boat all the way to the temple. And all she has to say is, let there be water. And there was water until she was able to go to the temple and install and share to the people all the beautiful gifts that she has received. Inky, of course, relented and went to see Inanna and blessed her and give her indeed what she had already received. So my question is, when we look at these myths, when we think of them as metaphors, what do they mean? Inanna, because she needed it, she just speaks. Let there be. The Creator created the sun and the moon and the waters and the heavens. What does that mean? If myths are metaphors, I think that those metaphors, if the Creator is creating the universe, and if myths are symbolic or metaphors of the powers in my body, I think that those creative, massive creation is a metaphor for my own ability in my body to create my own little personal universe. And I do that, and we do that by thinking the right thoughts, by speaking the right words, by doing the right action, and lining up all our energies in that direction and be consistent. And that is how we create our own little universe. I think I wanted to bring that up so that we can say that, oh yeah, there's there is a use for these myths being, what they are. They are. So now that I've given you the little background on myth, I hope I have awakened the power of words within you and have raised your consciousness about myth. Now I'd like to share some lessons and experiences as possible takeaway from this talk. Still continuing with some words, and I will illustrate it with some personal experiences. Now, first lesson, watch out for idle words. What are idle words? Jesus said that we'll have to account for all the idle words that we use. What are idle words? Useless words, inactive words, negative words, unprofitable words that don't move us to our desired goal. For example, when my children, were little, I made a certain slight change. When I see little babies or children get hurt and cry, and so their caregiver or their parents come to them and say, "Oh, poor baby." Having grown up in poverty, I did not want that word very near my children at all. So I changed. I said, instead of using the word poor, I want to call them sweet. Didn't want to call them rich. That didn't sound sympathetic at all. But I call them sweet. So sweet, baby, you need help. Oh, And my children are grown. Do you know that there is nothing, absolutely nothing poor about those children? They all have advanced degrees and meaningful careers. And you might ask, are they sweet? Do we have time to talk about it? It is a joy to have them as my children and to love them and to be loved by them. It is such a satisfying thing. So think of other idle words. What do you think? Can someone help volunteer some other idle words? How about swearing? People swear and they just keep on saying and repeating and repeating. And do you know that the pounding of that word, the pounding of the power in that word, just like Inanna says, "I take it," or "He gave it to me," it's making it real. Another idle word is road rage. Road rage. I mean, people screaming ugly words, and the driver that it's intended for doesn't even hear it. And who gets the negative effect of it? The speaker. So number 2, if you've fallen into a rut and you cannot get up or get out, right words will get you out. The Bible says death and life are in the power of the tongue. It is up to you. It's up to how you use your mouth. When I got divorced when my children are 4, 8, and 12. So I had to deal with my own pain, my children's pain, and the pain of the agents that work for me. As I was Grace Hogstad Realty. Because they were in pain too, because we were in a market where home values are just consistently dropping. Because of my depression, I lost my desire to work my own production. I lost the desire to motivate my agents. So I let them all go, find other brokers to work for. I kept only my assistant to help me keep the door open. I borrowed money to sustain me, my office, and my home. And soon. But money, you know, when you borrow money and you're not working, money flows out so fast. And soon I found myself again ready to borrow again. But with equities being wiped out, I stood the possibility of going broke and losing my children because I couldn't afford to support them. So, the thought of losing my children awakened the lion, the mother lion in me, and I washed my face, cleaned up my mouth of doomsday conversation, and went to work. I gathered up all the verses in the Bible that pertain to the power of words, like, the tongue is the rod that steers the ship. My needs are met according to His riches and glory. And I made a goal that month I would sell over $1 million of real estate. And you know, when houses were only about 100,000 average, it took a lot of work and a lot of houses to sell. But I did it. It was the words, the mantra, I can do this, I can do this. It was avoiding all the painful words, avoiding wallowing in the misery. I did it. And the words got me out, saved me. Indeed, death and life, prosperity and poverty are in the power of the tongue. The final lesson I want to share is make a decision about what you want and go for it. You know, when my children were growing up, I was content being a mother and being a real estate broker. But I also had this knowledge inside that I'm going to be leaving real estate. And it was not because I don't enjoy it, because I did. It was my game. I loved helping people. But there was something inside that was calling me. And I didn't know exactly what it was. But it had something to do, part of it was something to do with learning how to write, going to school and learning how to write. So I made a plan to create a passive income. I'll be quick. to buy 10 houses over time so that I can create a passive income. And then, of course, something happened. I was already buying and I was almost halfway through. And then changes came. I got divorced and the home devaluation happened. And so I had to forget about the plan to buy houses. However, after 7 years of consistent dropping, the houses dropping, I decided, you know, the bottom has to be here or very near. So I started buying. I started buying houses again. And I remember one day buying this one house and saying, you know, I'm really tired. I don't want any more. This is it. This is the last house. And soon after that, I was cleaning a desk drawer and found an old wallet that had my little yellow sheet with my goal to buy 10 houses. And I was stunned because I had forgotten about that. I had forgotten about that list. But here it was, the wish fulfilled, because the house that I bought last was the 10th house. And so I quickly contemplated on my process, what was going on, you know? And I thought that those houses, those 10 houses, came to me as if they were genies released from a bottle to come to serve me. So, but I think it's the power of the written word and the power of love mixed together and created reality. And to me, it was not just my love for my children, but I listened to something within. I listened to the soul. I listened to the whispers of destiny. And when we listen to our inward calling, the universe will give us what we need for our journey to destiny. Okay, Madam Toastmaster.